Alright, let's dive into a significant shift we're observing in the geopolitical landscape. We're going to talk about what's really going on with President Trump, Ukraine, and the evolving dynamics between them. This isn't just a minor adjustment, it's a notable change in direction that warrants a closer look, and we need to address that sudden and perhaps unexpected shift in his attitude toward Putin. For a long time, the relationship between Trump and Putin has been a subject of intense scrutiny and speculation. Now we're seeing a distinct change in tone and approach. Not long ago, Trump seemed to believe quite strongly that he could negotiate with Vladimir Putin, finding common ground and perhaps even forging a path towards cooperation. This belief was a cornerstone of his foreign policy approach. He even went as far as to say he trusted Putin wanted peace, a statement that raised eyebrows and sparked considerable debate among political analysts and observers worldwide. This trust, whether genuine or strategic, seemed to guide his interactions with the Russian leader. But that's changed in a big way. The shift is undeniable, and it's happening on multiple fronts. Now, Trump's not only disappointed in Putin, a sentiment that suggests a personal letdown, he's calling him out directly and publicly for prolonging the war in Ukraine, for the devastating bombing of cities, and for the tragic killing of innocent civilians. This is a significant escalation in rhetoric. Trump put it bluntly, "We get a lot of bull from Putin," a clear indication of his frustration and disillusionment with the Russian leader's actions and justifications. And he's not hiding his frustration anymore. The carefully constructed facade of diplomatic engagement has crumbled, revealing a more confrontational stance. So, what exactly happened to trigger this change of heart? Here's what happened. Let's break down the key events and decisions that led to this turning point. Last week, Trump paused the U.S. weapons shipments to Ukraine, a move that sent shockwaves through the international community and raised questions about the future of U.S. support for the country. Things like Patriot missiles, crucial for air defense and howitzer rounds, essential for artillery support. These are not just supplies, they are vital components of Ukraine's defense capabilities. Some experts thought this was a negotiating move, a calculated risk aimed at achieving a specific outcome. A way to show Putin the U.S. was willing to play ball, to offer concessions if Russia would just agree to a ceasefire, a de-escalation of the conflict, and a return to the negotiating table. The hope was that this pause would incentivize Russia to pursue a peaceful resolution. But instead of cooling things down, instead of seizing the opportunity for dialogue, Putin ramped up attacks, intensifying the conflict and demonstrating a clear lack of interest in de-escalation. Launching the largest drone assault of the war so far, a massive aerial bombardment that targeted key infrastructure and civilian areas, causing widespread destruction and casualties. That was the moment Trump realized the strategy wasn't working. The attempt at diplomacy had backfired spectacularly. Putin wasn't looking for peace, he was using every pause, every opportunity for de-escalation as a chance to get more aggressive, to consolidate his gains, and to further his military objectives. So what did Trump do? He flipped the script. He executed a complete reversal of policy. In a sharp turnaround, he told reporters the U.S. will resume sending weapons to Ukraine, reaffirming its commitment to supporting the country's defense against Russian aggression. And made it clear, in no uncertain terms, that Ukrainians need to defend themselves from these attacks, that they have the right to protect their sovereignty and their citizens. He's also pushing for more ammo for those anti-air systems because Russia's airstrikes are relentless, posing a constant threat to Ukrainian cities and infrastructure. Now, what does this mean moving forward? What are the potential implications of this policy shift? First, it signals a big policy shift, a clear departure from the previous approach. The White House, after months of skepticism about Ukraine and its ability to withstand Russian aggression, is now preparing to send even more military aid, signaling a renewed commitment to supporting the country's defense. Congress is also looking at tougher sanctions on Russia, seeking to further isolate the country economically and diplomatically in response to its actions in Ukraine. Second, it shows Trump's patience with Putin has pretty much run out. The window for diplomatic engagement, as he perceived it, has closed. He's not buying any more the charm, the carefully crafted image of a peacemaker, and he's not waiting for promises that never come true, promises of de-escalation and peaceful resolution that have consistently been broken. The consequences? What can we expect as a result of this shift in policy? We'll probably see a ramp-up of US support for Ukraine, more weapons, more aid, more pressure on Moscow, all aimed at bolstering Ukraine's defense capabilities and deterring further Russian aggression. And for Putin, this is a warning, a clear message from the United States. The US isn't backing down, it's standing firm in its support for Ukraine, and the old playbook of stalling and sugarcoating, of making empty promises and delaying tactics, won't work anymore. So, in just a matter of days, Trump's approach to Russia and Ukraine has flipped, marking a significant turning point in US foreign policy. It's a new chapter, with higher stakes and possibly bigger consequences for everyone involved, a chapter that will undoubtedly shape the future of the conflict in Ukraine and the broader geopolitical landscape. But how did Russia respond to this dramatic shift? Almost immediately, Russian officials convened a press conference in Moscow, with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov denouncing the US decision as an escalation that will only prolong the suffering in Ukraine. The Kremlin spokesperson echoed these sentiments, warning that renewed American support would be met with appropriate countermeasures. Russian state media quickly amplified the official line, broadcasting segments that accused the United States of fueling the conflict and undermining peace efforts. On major Russian news channels, anchors described the move as predictable aggression, and suggested it was evidence that Washington never truly wanted a diplomatic solution. Analysts on Russian talk shows debated the implications, with some warning that the US reversal could push Russia to deepen its military commitment in Ukraine. Others argued that Trump's unpredictability made it difficult for Moscow to chart a clear response, and that the Kremlin would likely wait to see if the new policy holds. On the streets of Moscow and St. Petersburg, public reaction was mixed. Some Russians expressed anger and frustration, blaming the West for escalating the war. Others, especially younger citizens and activists, voiced skepticism about the Kremlin's narrative, with small protests and social media posts calling for an end to the conflict. As the world watches, uncertainty and tension remain high. Both sides are recalibrating their strategies, and the next moves from Washington and Moscow could reshape not just the war in Ukraine, but the entire balance of power in Europe. For now, the only certainty is that the stakes have never been higher. If you found this analysis helpful, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for more updates on global events.